The North Sea doesn't just sit quietly on the map, it attacks. For centuries, this cold gray stretch of water has splintered wooden hulls, torn open steel ships, and swallowed entire fleets without a warning flare. It's been a battlefield, a lifeline, and an industrial worksite all at once. Warships once traded broadsides here. Convoys slipped through the fog with submarines stalking them in near silence. Later, oil platforms rose from the waves, bracing themselves against storms that could bend steel. Beneath the surface, the seabed is crowded with the dead. There are more wrecks here than in many of the world's great oceans combined. Merchant ships, warships, trawlers, ammunition, and unexploded ordnance, all layered into one long, dangerous archive. Every fishing boat that passes above is sailing over the remains of invasions, world wars, peacetime disasters, and decades of political tension. And yet, the North Sea is not a relic. It matters now just as much as it did in the age of sail or during the Cold War. To understand why, we need to start with where it is and how that geography turned it into one of the most important and heavily used seas on Earth. The North Sea sits in a narrow pocket of northwestern Europe, almost like a wedge pressed between competing coastlines. To the west lies the United Kingdom. To the east and south stretch the shores of Norway, Denmark, Germany, the Netherlands, Belgium, and France. Each one facing the same restless body of water, each with its own stake in what happens here. Its boundaries are tight and well-defined. To the south, the sea narrows into the Strait of Dover and the English Channel. To the north, it opens into the Norwegian Sea, and from there, the vast Atlantic. And to the east, through the Skagerrak and Kattegat Straits, it connects directly to the Baltic. It covers roughly 570,000 square kilometers, which makes it relatively small compared to many other Atlantic marginal seas. But the influence of this basin is far larger than its footprint suggests. One of the reasons is its depth, or lack of it. Much of the southern basin lies only 30 to 50 meters below the surface. Up north, the terrain drops sharply into the Norwegian Trench, plunging to around 725 meters. These depth shifts matter. They dictate how storms behave, how waves build, and even which shipping lanes remain safe when the weather turns violent. And the North Sea is anything but uniform. It's a patchwork, a mosaic of exclusive economic zones, a floor crisscrossed by pipelines, a shallow shelf dotted with rigs, wind farms, and shipwrecks, some centuries old, some from the offshore oil boom. Its geography isn't just shaped by geology. It's sculpted by politics, engineering, and decades of maritime competition. And the North Sea's violent reputation isn't exaggerated. It's climatology. Storms aren't occasional visitors here. They're part of the regular rhythm of the basin. Westerly winds sweep in from the Atlantic, funneled straight into the sea, especially through the fall and winter months. And because the North Sea averages only about 90 meters deep, it can't dissipate wave energy the way deeper oceans can. The result is simple. Waves form faster and hit harder. When major storms roll through, wave heights can climb past 20 meters. That's not rare, it's expected. The sea sits right in the path of frequent low-pressure systems, and when those weather systems coincide with high tides and strong onshore winds, you get textbook conditions for storm surges. The most infamous example struck in 1953. A massive North Sea surge breached coastal defenses in the Netherlands, the United Kingdom, and Belgium. More than 2,000 people died, thousands of homes were washed out, and huge stretches of land disappeared underwater. The disaster became a turning point, an unmistakable warning that modern flood protection needed to change. Less than a decade later, in 1962, another North Sea surge hammered the German coast. Floodwaters broke through defenses along the Elbe River and inundated Hamburg. Over 300 lives were lost, entire districts were submerged, and once again, governments were forced to overhaul emergency planning and reinforce flood barriers. Some areas are naturally more exposed than others. The southern and southeastern coasts, Holland, Germany, Denmark, sit at or below sea level with few natural buffers. Flooding is a constant threat. The British and Norwegian coasts rise higher, but still face relentless waves and intense seasonal storms. Tides add another layer of complexity. Along eastern England and into the German Bight, tidal ranges stretch beyond 7 meters. When those tides interact with shallow topography, strong currents develop. Currents that can twist normal wave patterns into chaotic, unpredictable conditions. Offshore crews working the rigs and maritime traffic moving between Rotterdam, Hamburg, and the North Atlantic have to navigate not just distance, but the constant evolution of the sea state beneath them. Modern satellites and radar help, of course, but prediction doesn't equal control. The North Sea remains a place where uncertainty is part of the environment, and that environment didn't just shape the weather, it shaped human history. Long before nations drew borders on maps, the North Sea was already a busy corridor. Early coastal tribes paddled across it in simple boats, trading amber, tin, and furs along its shores. The Romans knew it as Mare Germanicum, the German Sea, and used it as their route to Britain. These were small, scattered movements, nothing compared to what would come later. By the 17th century, everything changed. The North Sea evolved into one of Europe's most important strategic theaters. The Dutch Republic, England, Denmark, and Sweden all understood a single truth. Control the North Sea, and you control Northern European trade. During the Dutch Golden Age, the Netherlands built one of the world's largest merchant fleets. Dutch ships dominated the sea, linking the Baltic, the Atlantic, and their overseas colonies. But dominance made them a target. The Anglo-Dutch wars of the 17th and early 18th centuries were fought largely over these routes. Major battles, the 4 Days Battle, the Battle of Texel, took place in waters that today carry endless lines of container vessels. In the 19th century, British naval supremacy reached its height. The Royal Navy projected power across the entire region, and ports like Hull, Grimsby, and Newcastle grew into vital hubs of global commerce. At the same time, the North Sea became one of the richest fishing grounds on the planet, especially for herring. Industrial fleets pushed farther out, sometimes into disputed areas, sparking diplomatic friction and the occasional clash at sea. What used to be a simple maritime passage had become an arena. Coastal nations expanded their navies, charted the seabed in detail, and kept close watch on one another. And as steam replaced sail and firepower increased, the stage was set for something even more intense. By the dawn of the 20th century, the North Sea was no longer a trade highway. It was a future battleground where steel warships and submarines would determine who held power next. And those battles would leave behind more than stories. They would fill the seabed with wrecks. The North Sea has never been a gentle place. From the age of sail to the era of offshore oil, thousands of vessels have ended their journeys on its floor. Storms, hidden sandbanks, enemy fire, mechanical failure. The causes vary, but the outcome is the same. The sea takes what it wants. Some of the earliest notable losses date back to the 16th and 17th centuries. The Mary Rose, a Tudor warship, went down in 1545 during the Battle of the Solent. Although the wreck lies south of the English Channel, her story is tied to the naval arms race that shaped northern waters. She represented a turning point. Warships were becoming larger, heavier, and built for dominance in the rough seas of the north. Then came the Great Storm of 1703, one of the most violent storms ever recorded around the British Isles. The HMS Stirling Castle, a 70-gun ship of the line, was lost on the Goodwin Sands. Over 200 crew members were killed. And the location itself has a terrifying reputation. Goodwin Sands has swallowed more than 2,000 ships, earning the nickname the Ship Swallower. In 1895, the German passenger liner SS Elbe collided with another vessel in thick fog and sank in the North Sea. More than 330 people died. It remains one of the deadliest peacetime maritime disasters of its era, a reminder that technology doesn't erase the region's navigational hazards. The 20th century brought full-scale conflict, and the North Sea became a battlefield. During World War I, the Battle of Jutland in 1916 saw dozens of British and German warships destroyed off the coast of Denmark. British battlecruisers like HMS Queen Mary, Invincible, and Indefatigable were blown apart. German ships such as the SMS Lützow were also lost. Most of these wrecks rest deep, rarely visited except by military divers or robotic survey teams. In World War II, the sea was turned into a vast minefield and a hunting zone for German U-boats. Submarines targeted merchant convoys moving between Britain, Norway, and mainland Europe. More than 1,000 merchant ships were lost across the European theater, and a substantial share of them went down in or near the North Sea. Allied warships were hit as well. Mines, torpedoes, and ambushes near the English Channel, the Dutch coast, and North Sea ports claimed dozens of vessels. Many smaller craft, coasters, trawlers, supply ships, went down quietly, rediscovered decades later by fishermen and survey crews. The modern era has its tragedies too. In 1979, the Greek freighter Aeolian Sky sank off Sussex after colliding in dense fog. Its scattered cargo, including brand new Land Rovers and bundles of banknotes, still draws divers today. Just a year later, in 1980, the semi-submersible platform Alexander L. Kielland capsized in the Norwegian Ekofisk field. A fatigue crack in one of its legs triggered a catastrophic structural failure, killing 123 workers. It remains one of the worst offshore disasters in history, and a grim reminder that fixed platforms are not immune to the North Sea's power. And in 1987, the ferry Herald of Free Enterprise capsized shortly after leaving a Belgian port bound for Dover. Its bow doors were left open, seawater rushed into the car deck, and the ship overturned within minutes. 193 people died. Though it occurred just outside the North Sea, the disaster sent shockwaves through the maritime world and forced sweeping changes in ferry design and safety regulations. From wooden warships to steel oil rigs, the North Sea has demanded respect. Its wrecks are not just maritime relics, they're political artifacts, industrial failures, and deeply personal tragedies. Many remain buried under layers of silt, silent witnesses to centuries of storms, wars, and human ambition. And those ambitions eventually pushed nations to draw lines, literally across the sea itself. The North Sea isn't owned by one nation, it's bordered by 8. The United Kingdom, Norway, Denmark, Germany, the Netherlands, Belgium, France, and even a sliver of Sweden. For most of history, these waters operated under a simple rule: whoever had the power to use them, did. But everything shifted after World War II, when offshore oil and gas exploration revealed just how valuable the seabed truly was. Once those resources were confirmed, the scramble began. During the 1960s, disputes erupted over where offshore boundaries should fall. Countries wanted clarity and legal control before drilling rigs could rise from the water. The eventual solution came through a series of bilateral agreements, all shaped by emerging international law. The 1958 Geneva Convention on the Continental Shelf, and later the 1982 United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, UNCLOS, established clear rights. Coastal states could claim the seabed out to 200 nautical miles or to a median line when seas were too narrow for that distance. The result was a North Sea divided into a patchwork of exclusive economic zones, EEZs, with boundaries that are now well established. One of the earliest and most important deals came in 1965, when the UK and Norway agreed on a median line, allowing oil exploration to move ahead without risking territorial conflict. But once the lines were drawn, the arguments didn't disappear. They shifted to what lay within those boundaries. Fishing rights became one of the most contentious issues. For decades, the EU's Common Fisheries Policy determined how North Sea stocks were shared among member states. After Brexit, the United Kingdom and the European Union had to renegotiate access from scratch, leading to friction between British and European fleets, especially around the Shetland area and the English Channel. Military access is technically straightforward. Under international law, surface ships and submarines can pass through under the principle of innocent passage. But military exercises, naval installations, and NATO operations remain sensitive topics, particularly in zones closest to Russia's strategic interests. Environmental governance adds yet another layer. Organizations such as the OSPAR Convention coordinate multinational efforts to reduce pollution, protect ecosystems, and monitor industrial impacts. Enforcement, however, varies. Some regions face heavy pressure from fishing, shipping, and energy development, while others have been designated as marine reserves or conservation areas. Today's North Sea is less of a military battleground and more of a political mosaic, a collection of EEZ where each country manages its own resources, but also shares responsibility for safety, navigation, and environmental protection. And those responsibilities become even more complex when we look at the industry that transformed the region more than any other: oil and gas. For most of history, the North Sea's value was measured in fish. Before the 1960s, few imagined anything of economic significance lay beneath the waves. But then, seismic surveys revealed something far more lucrative: large sedimentary basins loaded with oil and natural gas. The turning points came quickly. In 1965, the first offshore gas field near the Netherlands was confirmed. By the late 1960s, Norway's Ekofisk oil field was discovered, an undeniable signal that the basin held world-class reserves. Then, the 1970s arrived, and drilling platforms began rising out of the water. Offshore industrialization had begun. Two countries emerged as the primary winners: the United Kingdom and Norway. Both nations controlled large exclusive economic zones, and both sat atop favorable geology. In 1971, the UK discovered the Brent Field, one of the most productive in the entire region. Conditions, however, were brutal. Winter storms battered platforms, waves smashed against legs of steel. Even routine maintenance became risky. But engineering kept evolving. Floating rigs, long-distance subsea pipelines, and remotely operated vehicles allowed operators to drill deeper and farther offshore. By the late 1990s, North Sea output hit its peak, around 6 million barrels per day. The economic impact was enormous. Norway used its oil profits to build a sovereign wealth fund, now the largest on Earth. The UK also earned enormous revenue, though much of it was spent directly rather than invested into a national fund. Natural gas expanded the region's importance even further. A vast network of undersea pipelines, most notably the Langeled pipeline from Norway to the UK, one of the longest in the world, connected offshore fields directly to European markets. But no oil field lasts forever. By the early 2000s, many North Sea fields began to decline. Production dropped steadily, and a new industry emerged: decommissioning. Massive platforms had to be dismantled, cut apart, removed, or repurposed. At the same time, the region was being reimagined as an energy crossroads, not just for hydrocarbons, but for renewables. Offshore wind farms expanded quickly off the coasts of the UK, Germany, and Denmark. Some aging platforms were converted into maintenance bases, or even as sites for carbon capture and storage, CCS. Then came 2022. Russia's invasion of Ukraine reshaped Europe's energy priorities almost overnight. Suddenly, the North Sea's mature fields didn't look obsolete, they looked essential. Governments approved new drilling licenses, revived exploration efforts, and extended the operational life of fields that had been scheduled for closure. The North Sea's oil boom may have passed its peak, but its strategic value hasn't faded. With its infrastructure, engineering expertise, and irreplaceable location, the region continues to shape the energy policies of Northern Europe. The North Sea has never been just water on a map. It's been a force that carved borders, powered industries, and rewrote European history again and again. It carried merchants, clashed empires, swallowed warships, and later fueled entire nations through its oil fields and gas pipelines. Today, its ports, fisheries, and offshore infrastructure still sustain millions, while the seabed below hides cables, wrecks, and reminders of every storm and every war that passed through. And now, as Europe races toward renewables and tighter maritime security, the North Sea is stepping into yet another role, no less important than the ones before it. So here's the question. What do you think the North Sea will become in the next 50 years? A clean energy powerhouse, a geopolitical hotspot, or something entirely different? Share your thoughts below. And if you enjoyed this journey, make sure to subscribe for more. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.